So I get the question almost daily, Jen, what the heck is going on with the real estate market? Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? Is the bubble gonna burst? Is there a bubble? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today in this episode on what the heck is going on with the real estate market in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Let's go. Hi, I'm Jen Sylvester with RE/MAX Platinum here in historic Plymouth, Massachusetts. And today it's all about market update and what the heck is going on with the real estate market here in Plymouth. So I'm going to break this down into three different sections. First, the state of the current real estate market. Second, is there actually a housing bubble? And third, what is the forecast going forward in the next 6 to 8 months? If you've been looking for real estate or you're thinking about putting your house on the market, you've probably heard about the inventory shortage. Well, specifically, the inventory shortage in Plymouth, if we look at last year versus this year, is down 58%. So that means we have less than half the number of listings that we would have had last year this time. The days to offer, or the DTO, which is the time between the date it was listed and the date an offer was signed, is down by 70%. That means on average, homes are going on the market and they're going under agreement in less than a week in most situations. If the property is priced right, and that stands true even today, it needs to be priced appropriately to the market, then you can expect to see an offer within the first week. And lastly, the average sale price is up by 18% over a year ago. Now that will obviously differ depending on what part of town you're in, whether you're single family or condo, but it's all going to be on average 18%, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, but it's up a significant amount. Now, how does that compare to what normal markets look like? Usually in normal market, we like to see between 4 and 5% appreciation. So what this all means is we do have a very, very heavily favored seller's market. Now, what we're seeing over the last couple of weeks is we're starting to see the market soften a bit. We're still in a very, very heavily favored seller's market, but the market is starting to shift a little bit. And what that means is that we're starting to see, instead of 15 offers or 20 offers, maybe the seller will only receive 4 or 5 or 6 offers. The offers are still coming in at above full price, list price, very competitive, waiving contingencies, but the frantic nature of the market is starting to, at the very tip, starting to subside. One of the reasons for this is we're starting to see the very beginning of more inventory coming on the market. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes when I talk about the forecast for the next 6 to 8 months. So the second question I get asked a ton is about the housing bubble. Is there a housing bubble? When's the bubble gonna burst? What's gonna happen if all of these things continue to grow, the appreciation continues to grow? Is everything gonna fall apart? And the reason I'm getting that question is a lot of people are referring back to 2006, 2007, when we did have a bubble burst and everything imploded and prices dropped, values dropped 30, 35%. The inventory went through the roof, and it was a really, really tough time for a lot of people. So when we look back at the 2006 housing bubble, when it burst, there were 3 main factors that contributed to that bubble bursting. The first factor was oversupply. The inventory was exactly the opposite of what we have now. We had an abundance of homes on the market, way more than the market could handle, and that was even prior to the housing bubble bursting. Now, the second factor was that we had adjustable rate mortgages, and people were getting these adjustable rate mortgages, no doc loans, getting into it at a very, very low introductory rate. But then 3 and 5 years later, those adjustable rate mortgages reset at a much higher rate, and people started to find themselves in serious trouble. And the third factor that went hand in hand with the adjustable rate mortgages was low down payments. You could walk in with a mortgage application with no income verification, no money down, and an adjustable rate mortgage, and walk out of the office with a pre-approval letter in hand. So then you had a situation where when those adjustable rate mortgages reset, and those payments went up. If a homeowner was in trouble and they needed to sell that property, now they had a property that had absolutely no equity because they had no down payment. And because of the oversupply, supply and demand, the lower the supply, that drives the price up. The higher supply, it brings the price down. So the prices were dropping because of the oversupply. At the same time, they didn't have any down payment, so their equity was low to begin with. That's why everything started to absolutely collapse, and you had a situation where literally properties were just falling off the market left and right. People were just walking away from homes, and that led to the collapse of the whole housing market, 2006, 2007. So if we compare that to 2020, 2021, it's a stark difference in circumstance. We have an undersupply compared to the oversupply. We have fixed rate mortgages as opposed to adjustable rate mortgage, which means that people are getting into 30-year fixed rate mortgages right now, and those mortgages are going to stay the same from this year, 5 years, 10 years from now. As long as they stay employed, that mortgage payment is going to be consistent for the foreseeable future. And then the third piece, the most important part of this market, which is why all the experts are firmly believing this is not a bubble, is the high down payment. We are seeing the baby boomers that have been in their home for years and years, have built up their equity. Now they have low mortgages or no mortgages. And then on top of that, the prices are being driven up because of the low inventory. So they're able to cash out with a significant amount of money and take that money and put it towards a property, pay the property in full, buy a second home, pay it in full. The other component are the millennials. The millennial market is bigger than the Gen X market and the baby boomers combined. Those millennials have been living at home with mom and dad saving money. And as they're saving money, all of that money, instead of paying rent, is going towards a down payment. So even the millennials are coming in not with low down payment, 3%. I remember when I bought my first house, I was scraping pennies to try to find a down payment to get in the property at 3%, an FHA 3%, mortgage, just to get that down payment. Nowadays, these millennials are coming into offers and they've got 5 or 10% and money, and still have money in the bank just in case there's repairs down the road. They're in a much better financial situation than their predecessors. Which brings me to the last part, which is the forecast. What's going to happen in the next 6, 8, or even 12 months? Now, this is something that the experts have been watching closely based on what's happening with the housing inventory and the unemployment and the inflation rate. And right now, the experts are predicting on average for the rest of 2021, we're going to see approximately an 8.2% appreciation rate for the rest of the year. And the long-term forecast over the next 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer, is an increased appreciation. We will eventually see those inventory levels rise and close that gap between what's on the market and the buyer demand. The buyer demand is not going to disappear. That buyer demand is as a result of the COVID buyers that couldn't buy property. All those buyers last year that either were ready but they waited because of COVID, or they tried to buy and they couldn't because their offers were rejected. I have several clients that have been putting offers in, very aggressive offers, and they just kept missing out. So all those buyers still want to buy. They've just been maybe taking a step back and they're coming back into the market. So we have those buyers, those leftover buyers that couldn't find anything, but then we have the new buyers, the inventory, or the regular real estate market. I always tell people it's, death, divorce, downsizing. These are, retirement. These are things that are going to happen regardless of any market. Sad part about our business, people pass away, and what do families do with those homes? People get older. They don't necessarily need the big 4-bedroom colonial that they raise their kids in. And so they want to sell that. They also need to go somewhere with this baby boomer market. They're not going into retirement homes. They're still maintaining their independence, and this is why we're seeing a big boom over the last really 5 to 8 years in Plymouth with 55 plus communities. They want those properties. They want that independence. They're going to continue. And then finally, we have the millennial market. So those millennials are going to continue to come in over the next 3-5 years or longer, which means the buyer demand's going to stay high. That inventory we're going to see creep up. And how is that inventory going to creep up? Well, one of the ways is that a lot of people are coming in the second half of the year, people that weren't ready to put their house on the market last year because of COVID. Those people are going to put their houses on the market. The second piece is, and I've talked about this in previous videos, the forbearance. Forbearance was something that the federal government did to give people a break so they wouldn't lose their home to foreclosure during COVID. That program is a short-term program where people could hold off on making their mortgage payments. That's going to end in this year. So in the next couple months, when that ends, a good portion of those people will go right back into their mortgage payments, and they'll be fine and they'll stay. But what the experts are predicting, based on the homeowners that are still making their payments and those that are not, is approximately 15% of those homeowners are going to go into foreclosure status. Now, because the market is what it is, and we're at such great appreciation in the market values, what would be normally foreclosures will turn into more inventory, because instead of going into foreclosure, those homeowners will just put the house on the market and sell it. Homes that are priced right sell in 7-14 days. They don't need to let it go to foreclosure. They'll sell it, maybe walk away with some money in their pocket and get out from underneath their foreclosure process. So we're going to see those sellers come on the market as well. And then the last piece is the fact that we're always going to have people that need to sell regardless. So we've got that little surge of inventory coming in the second half of the year, which is going to drive that inventory, kind of soften those prices a little bit, but still keep that gap between the number of sellers and the number of buyers. So I have a free bonus if you want some specific information about buying or selling in this market. Simply fill out the link below and I'll shoot you over an email with that free report. Email will be in your inbox within a matter of minutes. So if you like this video, please make sure to subscribe. Post videos every Wednesday on real estate, community, and home tech. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.